There's some things that are just too good for this world, too pure, too special. R.I.P. Anthem. Welcome to Triple Click, where we bring the games to you. This week we are opening up the old mailbag and pulling out some of your questions, including one of my favorites in a long time about a dog who hates the Switch 2. I'm Jason Schreier.
I'm Kirk Hamilton.
And I'm Maddy Myers.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, my friends.
Hello. Kirk, did you see that Rockstar banned Charlie Kirk from GTA 5? Like, people within GTA 5 were making missions where, like, you assassinate Charlie Kirk, and Rockstar banned it, which does not bode well for your prediction that you made just last week.
Or it means that they want to really get it right when they finally put a Charlie Kirk-based character into GTA 6, and they don't want all these people diluting their artistic vision.
Right, muddying the waters.
Yeah, they don't want people to get out ahead of it or get sick of it in any way, because they're gonna recreate it so respectfully and accurately.
Right. I have hope.
Speaking of things that are done respectfully, welcome to Triple Click, where we are a listener-supported podcast, and you can make this show possible by going to MaximumFun.org/join and sign up today. We do not have advertisements. We are entirely listener-supported, and so you make this show happen. And in addition to making the show happen, you also get access to our monthly bonus episodes, including one we just recorded and published this week about the TV show Pluribus. Super fun conversation about a show we all really enjoyed. So go and check that out if you haven't already. And if you haven't subscribed already, that once again is MaximumFun.org/join. We also have a massive backlog of bonus episodes and many more to come this year. In fact, I would venture a guess that there will be 11 more to come this year.
Very good.
Just a hunch.
Good guess.
I should have made that one of your predictions.
That should be one of my predictions. But that's
I
one
don't think we'd allow it.
We could just control it, and you guys could be like, "Oh, I'm calling in sick for this bonus episode." And just run it.
That's a good point, I guess.
And one more thing, we are now on YouTube.
We are.
Kirk, do you want to talk a little bit about our video adventures?
Sure. I have spent the last while sort of investigating how to make a video version of Triple Click, and the answer to the question ultimately was it is not possible to make a full video version of Triple Click that is on the level of the audio version of Triple Click that we have all spent so long refining. But we can still post our episodes to YouTube. And as it turns out, YouTube has somewhat recently made it possible to just like import an RSS feed, which is what we did. We imported all of our episodes to our YouTube channel, which you can find a link for that down in the show notes if you would rather listen to the show on YouTube. And also we're going to be posting some shorts and like little video snippets as we're recording the episodes. They'll kind of just be for fun. They're, before we even edit the show. So they're kind of just like little bits from the episode that to kind of share them out there as a YouTube short or maybe on Instagram or other social media sites. So anyways, if you like listening to podcasts on YouTube, you can find us on YouTube, either just through the YouTube app, or you can also listen on YouTube Music, like the way that you would listen to a podcast. So we're over there now, and yeah, go follow us. Somehow we already had like 14 subscribers, even though we hadn't told anyone about our channel. It just like immediately had 14 subscribers. I think the bots have already found us or something, or I don't really know how that works.
Or it's 14 really dedicated fans. And
they've just been sitting there refreshing Triple Click in the search on YouTube for 5 years.
14 people who just keep searching YouTube.
They just
like, well, it's morning, time to search YouTube.
And those people, they already know that all those episodes are up there. They didn't even need us to tell them. They've been listening, and they've been just so psyched that we finally updated. But everybody else, you're going to have to go subscribe.
Well, that's all very exciting. All right, let's get on with it. This week we are opening up the listener mailbag and pulling out some hot burning questions. As always, you can reach us at tripleclick@MaximumFun.org. And as always, the shorter your question, the better. Please do not write like a 500-word preface, because chances are we are not going to read it on the show if you just include a whole bunch of stuff. Just send us a question. We really like weird and hilarious ones. I think we might get to one of those this week. And we really like ones that aren't the same question that we've gotten a whole bunch of times before. All right, on with it. Maddy, start us off with this first question from Nathaniel.
Sure. Nathaniel writes, "Hi, Triple Click. Been a big fan since Split Screen. I was recently playing online in FC26 and had a really annoying bug happen to me. It made me wonder, what is the most annoying bug that you all have encountered? Along the same lines, do you have any favorite funny bugs? I know the face glitch from AC Unity is infamous, but do you have any personal favorites?"
I have a couple that come to mind that I'll share.
Okay.
So most annoying one is there was one, man, it was like a puzzle game or an adventure game of some sort, and I was playing an early copy, and there was a bug that like prevented me from actually making progress in it, which was extremely annoying. And then I had to talk to the developers about fixing it. It doesn't really count quite the same as like something that actually makes it to fans' hands, but still very annoying. That's happened to me a couple times over the years, actually. My favorite funny bug, though, I don't know if you guys remember this, but when Cyberpunk 2077 launched, I jumped into the first mission, and it was the prologue where you play as a corpo and you're in this big high-tech office building, and there were little trees everywhere, and I looked around and there were just tiny little trees everywhere I looked, and it was some graphical issue where there were just trees displayed anywhere, and then I went into the car and there were just trees as far as the eye could see, and it was just the most hilarious tree bug. It was very enjoyable.
Like the Lorax bug for Cyberpunk.
Exactly. I think you made that joke in 2020 when it came out.
One of the funniest bugs in Cyberpunk was just the way that people would stand up in their cars and T-pose, if you remember this. And there were amazing, I mean, just the videos of that, of like someone's basically ass cheeks above the skylight, like the sky in the top of their car, just standing there like this while the car flew around. I think T-pose bugs are generally hilarious. Like I've run into those many times where, to anyone who doesn't know what a T-pose is, this is a kind of a default positioning for a body in the game. It just stands stock still with its arms out to the side, forming a T. And there's a certain kind of bug that just causes that to happen. I mean, and it's widespread enough across a number of different games that it makes me think that this is like related to the way that animations work. Like they always start in that position. And so if the bug kicks them back to that position, you get this just hilarious and often deeply uncanny situation where you're like walking down a street in a beautiful countryside, and then you just look to the right and there's like 40 people all standing right next to one another, frozen in the same position, and it feels like Children of the Corn or some kind of
or Pluribus, maybe. Like any science fiction example. I have some favorite bugs, although I gotta confess some recency bias here. I mean, I'm sure I had plenty of progress breaking bugs in my past that are vague memories, but I've talked a little bit about the 4-player Night Rain mod that my gaming friends and I play almost every Thursday night. And because it's a mod, it introduces some really funny bugs because, I mean, this isn't the fault of From Software. We're willingly engaging with something that can break the game. And one of our favorite ones that pops up now and again is anytime you beat kind of a mid-boss in that game, you get like this kind of little altar pops up for each individual player, and they can each look at it and select a reward, and everybody gets their own version of the altar and their own reward catered to their character class. And there's a bug whereby multiple of those altars pop up for the first 3 players that join the game, and the 4th player gets 0 of them. And they get 0 rewards for the entire playthrough, and everyone else gets multiple rewards for the entire playthrough. And this has happened a couple times and has been so funny and has caused us to all just drag the 4th player and be like, you don't deserve it. You don't deserve any rewards. You're not working hard enough. And it's really funny. But we all get paid back because in the final boss fight, every Night Rain match ends with a final boss fight. If the first 3 players who joined the game all die, but that 4th player is remaining, they also are counted as being dead, even though they are actually alive.
Oh, man.
So we automatically fail, which means that we have then had to decide which of us is the best Night Rain player, and how do we ensure that those 3 people are in the top slots, and the 4th person who's most likely to die is in the 4th spot. It's really introduced a whole additional layer.
That's a real meta
of the fittest.
I know. It is mostly comical and really fun, and like also adds a layer of difficulty to the game that kind of helps out the fact that the game is actually quite easy when you have 4 players.
Man, that kind of stuff, that makes me think of Destiny, where you would have to have someone sign in first to the raid and then everyone would join on them so that they could be the one to unplug their LAN cable or whatever because they're the host, because there's no actual way of managing who the host is on PS4 or whatever. That's pretty funny.
Kirk, why don't you read this next question?
All right, this next comes from Hugh, who writes, I was wondering your opinions on the trend of using predictive markets to effectively gamble on Game of the Year. As industry insiders, do you ever look at the lines for these games or place bets on this kind of stuff? As a longtime NFL fan, I remember when radio shows and podcasts had to talk around the betting lines for fear of conflict of interest allegations, and it seems like games are heading that way too. Side note to Hugh, everything is heading that way. It's a nightmare. Okay, anyways, back to you. Do you think a serious gambling market could pop up around video games? And do you think reviewers will have to abstain, or if they will ever face allegations of posting inflated or deflated reviews to try to game the outcome of a bet? For example, if a Polymarket prediction placed odds on a specific game's Metacritic score, but reviewers were talking to each other to help beat the game early, they could have an insider perspective on what the critic score would be. I think individual betting like this is inevitable and will only add toxicity to the video games journalism industries, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. This is a great question.
Oh, man. Okay, I have so many thoughts on this, but first, do you guys mind if I do a little digression here?
Please, go for it.
Little kind of side path before we get to this question. So, as you guys know, I've talked about this a little bit on the show before, but for many years I've bet on football, like as a fun little hobby to make games more interesting. This year, like 3 or 4 months ago, I actually stopped. And I stopped for a few reasons. One is that it made the games like, I don't know, it makes games are more fun when you're not like personally invested in whether the points are gonna be, the spread is gonna be covered or not. 2 is something that happened, which I sent you guys a clip of, which is in a Cardinals Titans game on, I think it was October 5th. It was like week 5. The Cardinals were up 21-6 in the fourth quarter, and this guy Amari DeMarcado, who's this like third string running back, kind of a meaningless player, a useless player for most senses, had this incredible 72-yard run for a touchdown, but he, being a complete moron, decided to showboat and drop the ball before he actually crossed the goal line. So instead of a touchdown, it became a touchback. The Titans got possession, and of course the Titans came back, this miraculous comeback in the fourth quarter to win the game. And I had money tied to the Cardinals in that game, and I had this kind of come to Jesus moment where I was like, if this idiot Amari DeMarcado, who's this like third string running back who nobody had ever heard of before today, can cost me money by like dropping the ball before scoring a touchdown, something isn't right here. Like I don't want this to be part of my life. But the third thing, and this is where we get a little bit more relevant, is that I am so sick of the ubiquity of gambling, and I feel like it is ruining so many lives and getting so many people addicted to this really just completely destructive habit for a lot of people. I think many people can do it in a healthy way, and I think gambling can absolutely be something that you choose to do as a hobby and don't get sucked into it in the same way that drinking can or cigarettes can. Well, maybe not cigarettes, but drinking can, but like, or weed can, but for a lot of people that can also be very addictive, and it being so ubiquitous to the point where you can't even watch a sports game without seeing the lines everywhere and seeing FanDuel and DraftKings advertisements surrounding it, I think is really destructive for society, and especially for young people in society. And it makes me really nervous about the future and my kids watching this sort of thing and so on and so forth. And it made me feel like I don't want to be part of this anymore by like participating in this gambling system that I feel like is going to ruin a lot of people's lives and already has. And that leads us to today, which, yes, I mean, Polymarket and Kalshi already have bets for video games. There's a bet, I know this firsthand because last week I saw spikes for GTA 6 getting delayed on Polymarket based on like some comments that I made on a Ringer podcast. Go see my Bloomberg newsletter from last week to read more about that. But yes, this very much exists, and I think it will only continue to get worse as this stuff just becomes to like become more and more ubiquitous and is totally unregulated. And yeah, I think it'll definitely lead to some sort of crisis. Maybe this could have been one of our predictions, where like video game reviewers get threats because people had money tied to GTA 6 being a 95 plus Metacritic, and you gave it a 5 and you skewed the review score. Like, I could very easily imagine that happening.
Ugh, yeah, especially since video game scores are already something that reviewers get harassed over, and there isn't even money tied up in it. There's just
yeah, could you imagine?
Well, there's developer money, right? There's bonuses,
well,
and then that is used as an excuse, I think, a lot of the time to say
right.
like, oh, look, you're costing these developers their bonuses.
Right. And if the players don't defend them, who will?
Yeah, there's also this thought, I think, in the back of people's heads that like, oh, this game isn't reviewing well. That means I might not get the sequel that I want because people aren't liking it. So people do have kind of like their own personal logic for like going after reviewers. But even beyond that, I mean, it could be that like people bet a bunch of money on a game not being delayed, and then they start threatening the developers because it was delayed. Like, this could go really out of control. And the insider trading part of it, I mean, that's like a whole nother can of worms. Like, if we wanted to, we could probably bet so much stuff on Polymarket or Kalshi based on the like embargoes and stuff that we have behind the scenes. It's crazy. There's no regulation of this. It's insane.
Yeah, it's like wild that it's even possible for us to do that based on what we know. It's such a sign to me that these markets need to be regulated. It would never even occur to me to do that. And even just reading Hugh's email was giving me residual stress. Like, imagining a games critic with that inside knowledge using it to bet, it's like, ugh, yeah, if somebody didn't have any morals and somehow they found out about these embargoes or got a game early, then they could do these things. So yeah, I don't even know how you control for that if you're Polymarket or any of these other just betting platforms.
Are you guys familiar with, like, in sports, like, players get threats from fans because they didn't hit their over total and stuff like that? Like, that is actively happening.
I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that these markets they don't seem remotely interested in regulation. This whole thing seems to be going so hard in the opposite direction that, to me, it feels so weak to just say, well, I hope it gets regulated, because that seems so unlikely given
You're right.
Congress, I don't know if either of you saw this, like there was I don't know if it was on Polymarket, there were betting predictive markets about whether Maduro would be removed from office by the end of January. Someone put in, I believe it was a $400,000 bet. Bing! Just to be totally accurate, it was a bet with a $400,000 payout. Bing! Like 2 days before he was ousted. And like, then it was reported, not only did people in the Trump administration know, but there were reporters who knew, like who sat on the story. So, okay, so now you have to ask yourself, like, any reporter who finds out vital information about something like that, not only can they sit on it and protect those in power, but like, as if you didn't have enough to like generate conspiracy theories, they can also sit on it and make $100,000 bet on a predictive market and presumably cash out and make a bunch of money. So that's like happening, at the like highest levels of geopolitics. It's certainly also happening in video games. It's happening in sports. It's happening everywhere. And I find it incredibly distressing as well. To be perfectly clear, to like kind of answer Hugh's question, like I do not bet on anything and would not. And I would see that as like a huge ethical violation. I think all three of us would. So that's like worth saying explicitly. And also, yeah, I think it's a huge problem and kind of a sign of a truly unfortunate Pandora's box that has been opened for our culture. And I'd recommend, if people want to watch a really good video about this, Drew Gooden, the YouTuber, who's kind of been on fire lately and is a very enjoyable YouTuber in general. He made a video about this maybe 6 months ago that I really enjoyed. It was just really comprehensive. Things have already changed since then, but it really does sum up, I think, a lot of what you were talking about, Jason, which to me, the like DraftKings logos all over sports broadcasts, the ways that like these sports podcasts and like really major sports broadcasts will just have like gambling stuff just festooning the screen is like so disgraceful. I really find that so gross. And he talks quite a bit about that because, among other things, he's a sports fan. So it's a great video. We can link that in the show notes.
during the pre-shows of games, you'll have the announcers being like, our favorite parlay of the night is this, and this. It's really wild. Like, if you guys haven't watched a sports broadcast in a little while, I think your minds might be blown at just how infested it all is.
You know, it's funny. I went to watch the IU Oregon game because I grew up in Bloomington.
The future Jets quarterback in that game. Dante Moore.
So I grew up in Bloomington and I've always been a Hoosiers fan, but of course Indiana's a basketball school and we always had a terrible football team. And then I went to music school at the University of Miami where it was a great football team, and that was kind of where I learned to like be interested in college football. And now suddenly I have to like decide whether to root for Miami or IU. It's like a decision I never thought I would have to make because it was outlandish.
Fernando Mendoza is going to be the number one pick. He's the Indiana
Just to imagine that IU could compete with they were just in different worlds, and now suddenly I think IU is going to win. I think I'm going to root for IU. Actually, I never liked Miami.
Kirk, did you know that IU is favored by 8.5 points, and you can get a free $50 on DraftKings if you sign up now?
Yeah, I will not be betting, but I did know that they are favored, which is also just crazy considering how things have historically been. But I was actually wondering about that. Is there is it as bad like with college sports broadcasts, like the DraftKings
it's
and all
everywhere.
that?
It's everywhere. It's all over the place. One more thing I'll say, just because you mentioned this, it used to be like 10, 15 years ago. There's this famous broadcaster, Al Michaels, one of the greatest to ever do it. And he was known for making these like hilarious, subtle comments. Like towards the end of a game, if it was like a blowout and someone scored, he would be like, well, that mattered to someone out there. That was kind of like implying, like hinting at the outcomes for gamblers. Because that was before it was legal, and so you couldn't really outwardly talk about it in the same way. Now it's totally different. It's just all over the place. They're talking about it constantly. It's really a lot.
Yeah, it's important to remember that the only safe form of gambling is to force two of your friends to play a video game if you predicted something correctly in a given year.
Right.
Yep.
God, hopefully there's never a predictive market for the triple click predictions.
Oh God.
Could you imagine? Oh my God, that'd be so funny.
I don't even think we could do anything about it if that
Probably
did
not
happen.
Well, if you're a listener and you want to start one, please don't.
That's how you know you made it to the big time, as if there's a Kalshi market based on our predictions. All right, let's move on. This is from Steven, and Steven asks a question that we actually got a few emails about, so I feel like we should address it. It's a big existential question for Triple Click that I think we were going to have to address this sooner or later, so we might as well address it now. Steven writes, the three of you always seem to be engaging with lots of cool different art forms: music, writing, movies, video games, etc. How do you have time for it all?
I mean, I feel like I don't.
I know.
To answer the question as honestly as possible.
I mean, we all struggle with it. We're human. It turns out we're mortal. I know it seems like we're not.
I think that Maddie and I can talk about this, but I've seen several versions of this question directed specifically to you, Jason.
Yeah, Jason.
Because you are the parent of two children, and you do have a tendency to say things like, oh, well, I went and played through this entire 80-hour JRPG in the last 2 weeks, and yet also have other things that you've been doing while presumably raising two children. So maybe you can start.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I guess. I play, my gaming time is split a lot. Most of it is probably like the 2 to 3 hours between when my kids go to bed and when I go to bed, where I'm just playing on my Steam Deck in bed. Like, that's when I get most of my gaming done. But then sometimes, especially if it's like a really big game, I can get away with playing during the work day. So that might be an advantage that I have even over you two now that Maddy's no longer a Polygon, is that I can justify it. If it's a game I'm going to be writing about and covering at Bloomberg, I will spend a couple hours in the morning, especially if I'm not working on some big story or feature or something like that. And so I get some of my gaming time done during work hours, which is an advantage I have over probably most of our listeners out there, unless you are lucky enough to have a job that doesn't that either lets you play games or doesn't care if you can get away with it. I don't really watch movies. I don't listen to new music or anything like that. I listen to podcasts in the car. I watch TV shows with my wife at night, sometimes while I'm playing the games. On weekends, I don't play any games or do much of anything other than like spend time with my kids and take them places and take them to birthday parties and whatnot. And then books, I will do either instead of gaming at night or on planes. I travel a fair amount, and that's how I get most of my reading in, is I'll like read 2 books for each plane ride, which is where I get a lot of reading in. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, one thing that I've gotten pretty good at, I think, is not wasting time in social media holes, which I think allows me to get more done. Kirk has talked about this before, but it's very easy to just pick up your phone and find yourself having lost half an hour to scrolling through Twitter. It helps that I don't use Twitter anymore, and Blue Sky is, I mean, it's fine, but it's not quite as interesting.
It's
or
not
entertaining
2014 Twitter
was.
No.
Yeah,
What
exactly.
is?
I used to be on Twitter a lot more back in the day, and I feel like I was less productive with other stuff. So that helps. And I'm not on TikTok or Instagram much or anything like that, which I think can be a real time suck for people. So that helps me do other things, I think. And I read really fast. I think that also is a big part of it. What about you guys? I mean, you guys also do plenty of things.
Yeah, my schedule's not so different. Yeah, I think I have the huge advantage, which is that because I don't have children, I can get a lot of gaming time done over the weekend.
Right.
And also, Dina and I have a weekly movie night, which if we didn't have it, and we've talked about it, we would not keep up with movies. We would just fall into the pattern of either playing our own games or watching TV, because we will always decide like recurring TV shows we're going to watch together or apart. And we have a shared Just Watch account, actually, where we both can add things. And as they come up on streaming, we can decide what we want to watch next. I recommend that for any couple that likes to watch things together, or family, I suppose. So some of that is like just conversations with my partner about like when and how we're going to watch and do things together. But also I just have the entire weekend to just devote to playing a game, sometimes for maybe
I remember
too
those
many
days.
hours.
I remember that life.
Sometimes
Different
I
life.
spend an entire Saturday playing a game, and should I regret it? Maybe, but I kind of don't, because I can always justify it by being like, well, write about it, I'll pitch a story about it, or I'll talk about it on Triple Click. So that's one answer. How about you, Kirk?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked a lot about, limiting social media, reading in the mornings. Every time I hear from one of our listeners who has given up their phone in the morning and just has a book while they have coffee or whatever, it makes me very happy, because those people they always write it and saying, oh, this is a great change, and I'm reading a lot more books now, and that makes me happy. That's definitely been a big recent change for me, like the last 2-3 years, was shifting to reading books in that way. And that's let me read so many more books and just make reading a part of my life again, because it really wasn't for most of the 2010s. Like when I was working at Kotaku and playing video games all the time and reviewing them, I remember like not really like feeling like, man, I've really let reading go and I miss it. Because when I was younger, I read all the time and like loved reading books. So that's been a cool addition. It really required a lot of sort of conscious thought and getting rid of things like social media and internet browsing in general, like just jumping around from website to website. Because that reading is just so different from books, and I get so much out of books. But yeah, I mean, I don't watch a lot of movies. I wish I watched more. I've mentioned my friend Sam and I have this game where he comes over once a month-ish for an afternoon and we roll a dice and like watch Oscar movies, which is pretty fun. We just did it. We watched Erin Brockovich, which I hadn't seen in a while.
Movie.
Yeah, great movie. And Julia Roberts at the top of her game. She's so good in that movie.
I love hearing
really good.
about all these famous movies you've never seen before. I feel like I do the same thing, and I try to talk about it on this show too.
Oh, I've seen Erin Brockovich like 6 times, to be clear, but
Okay,
we just
fair
rolled
enough.
the dice for 2001, and we were like, well, let's just watch Erin Brockovich, because Sam hadn't seen it in a while. But no, I love that. Also, that year, Steven Soderbergh, Traffic, and Erin Brockovich both nominated for Best Picture, and then Ocean's 11 was the next year. Crazy time for Steve Soderbergh. Okay, anyways, to give a little bit more of an answer, though, on my own personal front, for me, like, I'm constantly, especially lately, like, music has taken a huge part of my life over, and in particular, musical practice, writing, learning new instruments, and also like working on this show. I'm doing a Strong Songs Live this year, which tickets will be for sale shortly, and I will be yelling about it on this podcast and everywhere else. But like I'm writing this like huge suite of music for it, and these things are so they're so all encompassing, they're so immersive that when I'm working on that, like I can't play a video game. And it's actually been a challenge. Like I really I'll go and sit down and be like, all right, I'm going to play this game. And then I start and I'm like, my brain is just not in this. I can't do this right now. And I have to just either go on a walk outside or just go practice again. So that's actually been a challenge for me lately, is like the music is really pushing out time for games, and I have to kind of figure out a new time to play games. It might be in the afternoons during the week, and then on the weekends, I think, as well. But yeah, I don't know. It's like actually a thing I'm consciously struggling with right now. So I always feel like there's never enough time. Like it's really just about making a lot of choices and trying to stick with them and just being methodical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always feel that way too. Like I wish I had even more time to watch more, play more.
Stupid sleep.
Read more.
Need to sleep.
Yeah.
All right, Maddy, read this next question, please.
Sure. This one's from Ramon, who writes, what is your relationship with audiobooks? How do you feel the experience of listening to a narrator read you a book compares to reading a book? Do you have a preference, and why? And what do you feel are the best aspects of both?
Can I just say, shocking stat is that for my last book, Playing Nice, the audiobook has outsold the print version. It used to be that audio was like way smaller than print, but
since people love audiobooks. Emily like really only reads books with audio. Like she loves audiobooks and has really been listening to tons. So
I'm very appreciative of audiobooks, given that they are getting people to read more.
I love audiobooks. I will say I'm a much faster reader as well. I mean, that helps with the time thing we were talking about. So especially if I want to finish a book quickly, just reading it is always going to be the faster option. But, and I know that the brain also kind of takes in information differently. And in my experience, I'll remember something better if I read it rather than if I listen to it. I'm less likely to be distracted because I have to focus on reading it. And I think there are studies that comport with that. And it's not just a sensation I have. But I also really like audiobooks. And I just wanted to shout out at least one example of one I really like. So I mentioned this book written by my friend Samantha Allen. She wrote a comedy horror book called Patricia Wants to Cuddle, and it's like a set in a kind of version of The Bachelor, like the reality show, but it's on an island that is haunted by a Sasquatch that is killing all the contestants off. And they, for the audiobook, got a ton of different actresses to play each of the contestants, and each of them has their own point of view chapter. And having all those different actresses play the parts just really brought the story to life and was an incredible way to experience the book. And I think even when I made it my one more thing, I said that, and I just think some books are kind of made to be that way. I remember I actually listened to the Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire books on audiobook as well. And there was a reader who did different voices for every character's chapter. And that was also cool. There wasn't different actors per chapter. That would have been even cooler. So I think sometimes, like, especially with a book that has multiple characters and point of view, like a fiction book, that can be a really, really cool way to take it in.
Yeah, I mean, the Harry Potter books, they were the books on tape at the time, but I listened to those, and
famous.
I'm now forgetting the actor's name. What is his name? The guy who read
Fry?
those? No.
Is he the guy that did it?
Jim Dale. It was an actor named Jim Dale who did voices for everyone. And I had just never listened to an audiobook before. This was like when those books were new in the early 2000s, and loved them. And World War Z is another one, since you're listening to them, Maddy, that comes to mind. World War Z has this like all-star cast.
I read World War Z, but that makes sense.
So you can imagine, given that World War Z is like kind of like a series of dispatches from different people, they got all these different
Exactly.
actors.
Yeah, that's probably great.
Yeah, for me, I almost never listen to audiobooks because I guess I still listen to podcasts, but not as often. And I really find that like I'm remembering that sometimes I just want to put on an album and like listen to music, like when I'm in the house. It doesn't have to be a podcast all the time.
But nobody should listen to Kirk, because actually podcasts are what you should be listening to at all times. Especially this one.
I have a great quote here. I had Jad Abumrad on Strong Songs last fall to talk about his Fela Kuti show. And in the course of our conversation, we were talking about audio and video and like the power of audio. I wrote a newsletter post about this. We can link in the show notes. But he said something I thought really wonderful, specifically about listening to someone tell you a story, which I know is part of this question. He says, I do feel like the way that you listen when you are just listening, it's very special, you know? The way a voice gets in your imagination. Somehow, because of the lack of images, you fill it in with your own paintbrush, and it lives so much more warmly and more vividly in your mind. I really love that. Even with chat shows, I love the way a voice can fill your consciousness. And I think he's right. I think that just listening to someone tell you a story, there's something so old about that. We've been listening to people tell stories just around a campfire or whatever, and you picture it in your mind. And like, it's so powerful because it doesn't have a visual component. And that's something that audiobooks really do really well, especially with like a great person with a great voice, like a great actor reading the stories. So it can be really cool. I kind of wish I had more time for them.
It's funny to think about because you think of audiobooks as kind of a new concoction, like a newfangled piece of technology. Right. But the idea of audiobooks itself, of being orally told a story, is older than reading.
Yeah, it's like the oldest tradition.
Reading books is only
yes.
reading books is only 500 years old. And,
but telling
audio storytelling is thousands and thousands of years old. Maybe who knows how long?
Yeah, might be even older. It's probably the advent of human language is how old telling stories is.
Interesting. All right, let's do this next one. Kirk, you want to read this next question?
This is from Kevin. Kevin writes, I have an odd situation that I could use your advice on. My dog seems to be afraid of my Switch 2 and leaves the room whenever I turn it on. Doesn't matter whether it's docked or in handheld, whether I'm using the Joy-Con or a Pro Controller, whether it's Zelda or Mario Kart and so on. If the Switch comes on, he is out. I am not an angry capital G gamer, so I don't think he's responding to my behavior when I play. He also doesn't mind the PS5. What can I do? Have you heard of anyone else experiencing
That's
this?
such a good twist that he doesn't care about the PlayStation, but it's only the Switch for
your
some
dog is a console
just
warrior.
Setting off this dog. Yeah, this dog hates
Sony
Nintendo.
fanboy.
He's like, friggin' Nintendo's for babies. I'm out of here.
I have a couple of thoughts on this, having recently trained our dog. So my first thought is that it would not be a bad idea to talk to a dog trainer if this is actually something you want to fix, because anything your dog is like exhibiting sort of a fear reaction to or not liking is probably something that you can work with a trainer on and like come up with a program to actually find a way to like teach your dog not to dislike the Switch, by like slowly, like if you come up with a plan, that will actually be the way to solve this problem, since Kevin does seem to be asking, how can I fix this? And like, I definitely recommend a trainer. Like anytime you think, I can figure it out myself, like a trainer will just really help because they kind of train you. My one thought as to what might be causing this, that the only thing I can think is that there's a fan or some sound that the Switch 2 is making that the dog can hear and you can't hear. I don't know if that's really the case, because I don't think of the Switch 2 as being particularly loud in handheld, though I know it has a like whole cooling apparatus when it's docked. But that's my only thought, is that given that like my dog sometimes didn't like 60 frames per second on the screen, like high frame rate when she was a puppy, she would actually get freaked out because it was too real looking and she thought it was like a real thing in the room.
Yeah, our
and
cats
she would
do
bark.
that sometimes too, where they think that it's a window and they get scared.
Right. And so, but the PS5 doesn't cause that. So it just makes me think it could be some sound thing that you're not hearing. But either way, I think talk to a trainer is my advice.
I think Kevin's dog found out about Nintendogs and is just really pissed that Nintendo is.
How can you keep the dogs in there? Let them out.
Yeah.
They need to go on a walk.
Yeah, I don't know if this is true of dogs, but I know from owning cats that they have very weird memories. Like they'll have an association with something that will last for a long time. Like, for example, they might have like a bad association with an object or a thing because the first time we used it, there was a car backfiring outside, and they remember that forever. And we have no idea what that association is, but just through positive reinforcement, we can just be like, okay, we're going to slowly fix this. I agree with Kirk, though. Dogs are a lot more, they need way more regimenting than a cat does. A cat, you can kind of just redirect in a way that you can't always with a dog. But I do think there's probably a similarity where something bad may have happened with the Switch 2 really early on that you don't remember or have any idea what it was. And it might have been something that had nothing to do with you, like a loud noise outside. And the only way to fix it is to rebuild a new association. But I really hope our listeners write in, because if it's a sound thing, then I feel like other people are going to tell us and be like, no, my dog can also hear the phantom whistling that the Switch 2 is making that our human ears can't hear.
This is like the end of Sgt. Pepper, where there's an ultrasonic sound that makes dogs freak out.
I think you guys are just underestimating this dog. Like, I think it's because the dog is upset that Nintendo didn't innovate with the Switch 2, and it just made this kind of iterative new
true.
It's just mad about how expensive it was. It's like, I can't believe you spent that. You could have bought kibble with that, man. You could have bought me treats.
$500 worth of dog toys. Come on, what are you buying that thing for? The dog is like, where are the exclusives? The dog is like Metroid Prime 4 is kind of
such
big.
a
for the first
mid.
year. Everything is cross-platform with Switch 1.
Yeah, man.
These are all good points.
It's just a savvy
Dogs
dog.
are
That
smart.
dog is the reason that dog is leaving the room is to go post on Reddit about the Switch.
It's true. Kevin says that he is not an angry uppercase G gamer, but he says something about his dog. And some dogs could be angry uppercase G gamers. It happens.
All right, let's get one more question in. I'll read this next one. Ben writes, I was listening to your Metroid Prime 4 episode, and at one point Jason complained about its sameness to other Metroid Prime games. When discussing the desert, Maddy said it was very un-Metroid. When thinking about a sequel, what is that Goldilocks zone where it's definitely a game from that series, but not too samey?
This is a tough one,
It's
right?
Not too similar, not too
balancing
different,
act.
just right.
Yeah.
I think one important thing is that when you're different, you should be different in ways that are cool and fun.
And not bad.
Yeah.
Right, not just a big weird desert.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to just answer this really specifically about Metroid Prime 4, but I think it's also like a general question you could apply to any sequel that probably all the game developers out there listening are like, yeah, this is the bane of our existence. What is the Goldilocks zone?
Well, there's a rule. There's a rule that all game developers use. I believe it was is it the Warren Spector? No, it's a Sid Meier rule. I'll props to Warren Spector, but it's a Sid Meier rule, which is that a sequel should be 33% old, 33% improved, and 33% new.
Really?
A third of the stuff in a sequel should
amazing.
be returning, a third should be like the same but better, and a third should be totally new. And a lot of game developers have used that as a rule of thumb over the years.
I've never heard that.
I've never
I love
heard this
that.
either.
It seems like a
this is
great starting point.
I mean, Sid Meier has a million like design rules
this is
that
how he
are
operates.
just brilliant, and everyone just like one of his other ones, which I've always thought was brilliant. Sid Meier is, of course, for people who don't know, the designer of Civilization, and
Like our civilization. Like
yeah, he
He created human civilization.
where we are currently living. He designed it.
Also has a reputation for being like the kindest man in the video game industry. Founded Firaxis, lives in Maryland. A very respected dude. One of his other big like design principles is to never make something like have a 10% leap or something like that. Like you always want to either double something or half it. Otherwise, what's the point?
He really
Like,
thinks in terms of percentages. That's so
he
interesting.
does. Yeah, that's like part of his design aptitude. But anyway, that's kind of the rule of thumb that a lot of game designers use, which I think is tends to be effective. I think the problem is that when you're talking about things that can't be kind of quantified. So like if you're going from one open world RPG into the sequel to that open world RPG, you could say 1/3 of the weapons will be new and 1/3 will be old and 1/3 will be improved. But like, how do you handle mechanics? And are you going to just quantify the number of mechanics? How do you do that? That's when you get a little bit squishier territory. And yeah, it's a tough one because you do have to find that balance of like what people want because they enjoyed the last game and what people want to do differently. I mean, if you look at Zelda, I think that's kind of an interesting analogy here because that series has changed so much over the years, and especially going from Skyward Sword to Breath of the Wild was such a leap. And Breath of the Wild certainly feels like it carries on a lot of things that make it feel like Zelda, but it is also such a different game. So I guess the answer here is if you're making a sequel, make it one of the greatest games of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great advice.
I think that, I mean, honestly, the closest thing we're going to come to an answer to Ben's question is what you just, that Sid Meier like percentage that you just gave. Like that seems like a great starting point.
Yeah. And I think from a critical perspective, you can also map that onto some of our disappointments with Metroid Prime 4 too, or as well. Don't add the number 2 to the title. And in the sense that I do feel like there's a third of it that reminds me of old Metroid Prime games. Like the Volt Forge reminds me of some old Metroid Primes. In a good way and bad way, that whole running up and down the elevator situation is kind of old school. But then I wouldn't say there's a third of the game that is like old Metroid Prime, but improved. I don't know that much of the game feels that way to me. And the new stuff, the desert, also feels pretty boring. So that's tough. I do feel like there's actually a lot in there that's new, perhaps more than 33%, but a lot of the new stuff is not exciting. So they should have refined that.
Did you guys see that interview that came out over the holidays with the Metroid Prime developers?
It was really fascinating.
It was in a Japanese interview, so this is machine translated, so I can't 100% say that it's like accurate, and I'm going to paraphrase anyway, but essentially they were like, we started this off with another developer, and it was going to be this open world project, then we moved it to retro, but we decided not to like reverse course on the open world part, even though open worlds had kind of evolved since then and players have kind of like changed their views on it and so on and so forth. And they were essentially like, yeah, we got stuck with this old design and couldn't do anything about it. It kind of, reading that interview was a little bit surreal. It felt like what developers would be saying anonymously later, except it was just this on the record interview in like Famitsu.
It made so much sense, though, and it really made me feel for the retro developers who got the project later and were like, okay, we have a game that Nintendo told us they didn't want it to be, but we also still need to reuse some of this in order to make the new version of the game, and what can we get rid of and what can we replace? It sounds really, really difficult, and I think that that's evident even in the game that we got, is that difficulty.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you to everybody who sent in questions. Once again, you can reach us at tripleclick@maximumfun.org. Now we're going to take a break, and then we'll come back with one more thing.
Say, what's the trivia show where dreams come true?
It's gotta be Go Fact Yourself.
Legend in the house.
We quiz celebrity contestants about topics they love
Then bring out surprise experts.
to delight and amaze.
And then finally tell us why you know and love the lyrics to the song Knockin' Boots by Candyman.
Joining us tonight is a rapper and producer. It's Candyman!
This is among the greatest moments of my life.
This is one of mine too. I love it.
That's Go Fact Yourself,
Twice a month, every month.
here on Maximum Fun.
Since 2017, after every Max Fun Drive, we've held a sale for Max Fun members where all of the proceeds go to a nonprofit. In December, we donated $43,000 to Transgender Law Center. $43,000. Thank you to all the Max Fun members who made this possible. Transgender Law Center champions the right of all transgender and gender nonconforming people to live freely, safely, and authentically. A mission that everyone at Max Fun supports. If you'd like to learn more or make an additional donation, go to transgenderlawcenter.org. And for anyone who needs to hear this, you belong here. You deserve to be able to be yourself, and we love you.
And we are back for one more thing. Maddy has a very exciting announcement that I think, Maddy, you should share.
I will share it, and it is that I am creating a website, and I think that our listeners will like it a lot. So to give some backstory, before I worked at Polygon, I worked at Kotaku. And before I worked at Kotaku, I worked for a website called The Mary Sue. That was kind of a quote unquote geek girl style blog. That was the angle that we took on all of our stories. It was really fun to work there, and I loved it a lot. And Susanna Polo, who I later worked with at Polygon, was actually the co-founder of that blog, and working with her was really great. And I used to read her work at the Mary Sue before I worked there. So many years went by. This big company called Gamers Group acquired the Mary Sue in 2021 and laid off almost everybody. Super different website now. And I kind of saw that happen.
Is that just like another version of Valnet?
It kind of is. They laid off some people. And I mean, I will say, even when I worked for the Mary Sue, we had a really high post quota even then, like before the site was acquired by Gamers Group, which also maintains a really high quota for the one employee remaining there. But even when there were 5 of us, we all had to write 4 to 6 posts a day, which meant that I didn't do as much reporting as I wanted to. We had to do a lot of like shoot from the hip reaction posts and just really quick news. And that I think plagues a lot of publishing today, just in general. It's just the especially like advertising driven publishing, which is kind of how these big companies like Gamers Group and Valnet, which acquired Polygon recently, that's how they operate, is entirely advertising dollars. So there's a really high rate of churn of stories because it's like kind of the quote unquote easiest way to get traffic. Anyway, I think it's fair to say I'm against that as a methodology, but also I have been thinking since the Mary Sue changed completely that I think a website like that should exist. But I've also been looking at a lot of other kind of independent video game websites that have popped up. And many of them are trying to do it all. They're trying to do news and reviews and everything. And they're basically trying to compete with other websites that have way, way, way more resources than they do. And that was one of the things that worried me when I hadn't yet founded this website. I was like, how do you make a website and like stand out and compete with like the IGNs of the world?
Did you know, Maddy, as soon as Polygon went through its changes and you decided to leave, did you know right away you're going to start your own thing?
I did
when
not.
Did you make
I did not.
decision,
I really thought about it a lot over like 3 months and didn't really firm it up until after I quit Polygon. But I did observe a lot after the Valnet acquisition about like how they operated and think a lot about publishing and what I didn't like about it. And one of the main things I didn't like was that I didn't own any of my work, which I know you two can relate to. Like, we don't own any of our Kotaku stories. And we have no right to change anything about them or profit off of them. Other people profit off of them. Other people are profiting off of my old stories at the Mary Sue and my old Polygon and Kotaku stories as we speak. And that upset me a lot. So I just kind of was like, well, what would be the solution to all of these just mixed feelings I'm feeling? So I ended up kind of getting in touch with one of my old Polygon coworkers, Zoe Hanna, and she and I decided that we wanted to make a website in the tradition of something like the Mary Sue, in that it's like there will be a lot of women and queer writers and writers of color contributing to this. And that's going to be an angle that a lot of it takes, but it's also going to have a lot of reporting. So that means that we really, really need subscribers, people to pay for the website. So the website is called Mothership, and it's launching for realsies on January 26th. But before it launches, I'm doing a special pre-launch sale. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I already know I want to read this site. I want to read reporting. I want to help Maddy pay those very expensive legal bills for any reporting they might do on anything dicey about a big gaming company, that kind of thing. You definitely want to help me with my bottom line now that I'm a small business owner. So if you already are in, then go to mothership.blog and you can actually get a 15% off lifetime discount of your subscription fee. I'm never going to do this again because I'm already pitying my future self, having to make sure that we get a lifetime discount implemented on any future CMS the website is ever hosted on. But I'm doing it just this one time. So go to mothership.blog, get the lifetime discount now, or if you want, you can just wait until January 26th and see what we publish and if you like it. And I'll talk about it here whenever we do a story that I think is cool.
Awesome. It makes me very happy that you guys are pursuing this with reporting as a goal in mind, because the low-hanging fruit is to be like, we're going to just check the internet and just write up some thoughts and opinions on what we see online. And what actually brings value to the world, I think, in a not that those don't bring value to the world, but like what I think brings more to the table and can really make you guys stand out is by having reporting where you're actually getting on the phone with people and asking questions and getting answers for readers who won't be able to get them without you guys, as opposed to just getting opinions, which everyone has 4,000 opinions about every different topic.
I really strongly agree. And I think that there is still a dearth of reporting in the game space. And that's been happening for the many years that we've seen layoffs. And I think that's a huge issue. And it's part of why in founding this, I was like, reporting has to be the key pillar. It doesn't mean we won't have reviews and opinion stories, but we're not doing news. I'll tell you that right now. We're not going to try to keep up as a news site. We're just really going to focus on longer stories, longer turnaround, higher effort stuff.
Good stuff.
Well, I'm very excited. I can't wait to read Mothership, and I think it's an amazing name, which I have said many times, but really, like, picking a name is important. I think it's so important, and you guys crushed it. It's a fantastic name, and I'm just very excited. The Mary Sue was such a good website, and it's a great thing to be kind of using as a spiritual successor or whatever.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see what you do. It's just very exciting. I hope everybody listening goes and signs up for a membership and gets that discount.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm also excited that you guys are going to showcase all these different types of voices, but not just talking about like issues that are relevant to their specific category of whatever.
Instead, it's like, what if we give those people the opportunity to be reporters and get answers directly about the issues that concern them and have those people be who write about those issues. That's something that I think is really important in general, to have people reporting on the issues that directly affect them. So I'm excited about that too.
Yeah, love it.
Hell
Can't
yeah.
wait to see it. Very excited for you, Maddie. Congratulations. Kirk, what's your one more thing?
My one more thing is a video game that I have been playing through that is so freaking good. It might have even made my top 10 list last year if I had played more of it in time. But it was also it came out in December, really close to the wire, and that's just how it goes. This is a game called Skate Story that is so awesome, at least in my opinion. It's the kind of game that I just really love. This is a game made by a solo dev named Sam Ng that is a kind of... I'd say I would actually compare it to Sayonara Wild Hearts, that Sumogo game, if I had to compare it to anything, in that it has that same feeling of like breathless, surreal forward momentum with a beautiful soundtrack. A lot of the music is by the band Blood Cultures, and the music is like pulsing and pushing, and it feels like you're kind of just soaring along.
I wish you a pleasant flight.
Blood Cultures is a great name for a band.
Yeah, it is. It's a cool
They're a
band
great
name.
band. It just really feels like you're playing through not exactly a music video, but like a synesthetic like music experience. It's also just really cool as a narrative game. This game has been like in the ether for a long time. I think certain people have been very aware of it. I think actually anyone who is like in the not insignificant crossover between skate culture and video game culture is aware of it, because this game is, as far as I understand, very true to skate culture. It is a skateboarding game in which you kind of do Tony Hawk-like moves as you fly through these surreal landscapes. And I'm not a skateboarder and don't know a lot about skate culture, but I can just tell that there's like a very specific love for a very specific subculture behind this game. And that's part of what makes it really kind of cool for me, is to experience that. But also just the story and the world and the way that it looks. So it's a skateboarding game, but it's incredibly abstract. You play as a demon who wants to eat the moon because the moon looks so delicious, and yet you can't get to the moon for kind of complicated and abstract reasons. And then the devil offers you a contract.
Can you pause for a second? That was like a 2-sentence difference between this really accurately represents skate culture and you play as a demon who wants to eat the moon.
Well, now look, I don't want to say that I know everything about skate culture. Maybe most skaters are demons who try to eat the moon. I don't know. I think some of this is like Sam Ng's cool brain, and some of it is like at least aesthetically in line with some of skate culture as well, even though it has this kind of fantastical story. But yeah, you sign a contract with the devil that allows you to leave to go and try to eat the moon, and you are given a body that's made of glass and a skateboard. And so you're this glass skater, and anytime you crash, you'll like shatter apart. And you feel, it's like there's a lot of the kind of conjuring of the pain that your character feels. Like you will feel the pain of every crash, but then you immediately rewind and start over. And then there's this just thrust forward, especially at first. It kind of alternates between enclosed skate park type areas where you have like a series of sort of objectives that you have to meet, like things you have to find or unlock. And then it'll get into like a kind of move forward, feels a lot more like Sayonara Wild Hearts, like you're just flying along and the music is going. There are boss battles. I really can't describe it that well because the visuals are so weird. It looks kind of like, I really don't know. I don't have the like background in like artistic styles to really nail it down. But once you see it, you'll be like, oh, okay, this has a very distinct visual identity. It's very abstract and very kind of almost like 90s clip art website meets like synthwave meets vaporwave, kind of lo-fi internet aesthetic, whatever. I'm just saying words. It's incredibly cool. If you go like, my words will not
really... If you say a word with wave at the end, it sounds legitimate.
Yeah, it sounds like that a great description. We're
so
nodding.
If you go and look at like 5
Chill
seconds
wave,
of gameplay
punk
footage,
wave, skate wave, triple click
really
wave,
ska wave,
glass
it's
wave,
skate wave,
demon wave.
If you go and look at like 5 seconds of gameplay footage from this game, it will do more than everything that I just tried to describe. As much as we just talked about the beauty of the power of the voice, like the image that you're painting with your brain won't be as accurate as the one that you will immediately clock when you look at the game. But I really just recommend playing it. I mean, this is like the kind of work of interactive art that we don't get that often. It's clearly a labor of love. I think it's been in development for a long time. The person who made it is like really brilliant, I think. Like it's narratively actually really moving at times. It's really beautiful. It's just, it's not really like anything else. I love it. And just wanted to shout it out. I think a lot of our listeners would love it if they haven't already played it. So it's called Skate Story. It is on, it's on all consoles. It's on Mac, PC. I played it on PC, and it's a really great game.
Cool.
My one more thing is a movie, despite the fact that I talked about how I don't watch movies earlier. This is like one of the 3 movies I watched in 2025, and it is called Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery.
Hell yeah.
I guess I watched it in 2026. But anyway, this is the 3rd Knives Out movie, the 3rd entry in the Benoit Blanc saga, which I'm sure people out there are familiar with, directed and written by Ryan Johnson, starring Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc, the infamous detective. And this one takes place in upstate New York at a very small Catholic church where the minister in charge, what's the exact? Let me look up the exact. Monsignor Jefferson Wicks, played by Josh Brolin, is this charismatic despot type who has this small congregation of people who are all flawed in their own ways and are all allured and attracted to him in different ways. And then he is found dead, and Benoit is called in to help a young priest named Judd Duplessis help figure out what happened. This young priest is a former boxer who himself killed a person many years ago, which is the reason that he decided to become a Catholic priest. And this movie's really good, as all the Knives Out movies are. No surprise there. Ryan Johnson tends to make good movies, going all the way back to Brick, which we talked about. Back in the day.
There's a bonus episode on Ryan Johnson.
Yeah, where we talked about Ryan Johnson movies. Yeah. He makes great movies, and this one is no exception. I really enjoyed it. The mystery I didn't enjoy quite as much as just the kind of the
vibes.
The ride of it all. Yeah, the vibes. The main character, Judd Duplessis, Josh O'Connor is the actor who plays him, who's really good. I had never seen him in anything
He's
before.
so great.
And I thought he did a fantastic job. Glenn Close also does a really good job collecting Dalmatians and using them to make a coat. And then also she's in this movie doing a pretty good job.
Apparently deathly ill for much of the filming. She got like really sick.
Really?
I read that somewhere.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, it kind of fits her
They filmed this in England, which is also kind of funny. It's like a lot of English actors are in the cast.
That is funny because it's supposed to be New York, so that's very funny.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like an imitation of an English church that they kind of call
But
out.
everybody films overseas now because it's cheaper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Kirk will talk about that a little bit next week, I think. But anyway, I really enjoyed it, mostly for the vibes and for the way it explores religion. I think it would be very easy for a movie like this to be like, man, haha, fuck the Catholic Church. Like, we're just going to satirize these demonic priests. And I think that actually it does a really good job of kind of showing some of the nuances there and some of the ways religion can be comforting. There's this one great scene that I think for me was the standout of the movie. I won't get too specific in case people haven't seen it, but basically Josh O'Connor's character puts everything he's doing aside so he can comfort someone on the phone who is looking to religion and looking to their priest for guidance, which I thought was a really cool moment.
Of course, by another character from Somebody Somewhere, Maddy and My Beloved Show, in an incredibly perfectly cast small performance.
Yeah, and also Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who is in plays like an uncredited role in every single. Yeah, he's like a baseball announcer in like an uncredited role. Anyway, so I enjoyed the movie mostly for that. The mystery itself is a little bit like there's some holes, there's some ridiculous stretches.
It's more of like a character ensemble just
it's kind of the thing with all these Knives Out movies, to be honest. Like they're just not, that they're kind of murder mysteries second, and they're so metatextual, they're so twisty.
Yeah, they're character studies more. Yeah, agreed. And the character study is fantastic. I mean, all the characters are great and performed extremely well, and just very fun to watch and see unfold. I would have spent more time with some of them. Actually, I feel like some of them might have gotten, especially the cellist who is in the wheelchair. I feel like I would have loved to see more from her. But overall, really enjoyed it. Highly recommend it. Perfect like Saturday night watch with your friends or your significant other. Just go check it out. It's on Netflix. I believe Netflix funded the film and the last one. TBD if there are more, but Rian Johnson has said he would keep making them forever, and I hope he does.
Yeah, I loved this movie.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I liked how specific it was tonally and even stylistically. It's so doing this kind of horror, this like gothic horror creep show thing. It's at times a little bit disturbing, some of the visual imagery. There's one shot in particular of like a woman lunging forward onto a child where the camera like flips over and you're like, and it's really horrifying. They do some like strobe light stuff at one point that just straight up looks like a like 70s Italian horror movie. And I was like, Rian Johnson is such a film nerd, and it's cool to see him applying that to a like whole new palette. And I actually, I didn't love the second Knives Out movie overall. I thought this was way, way better than that. And I might even like it better than the first one. It's like, they're very different, and I like both movies. I'd have to rewatch both of them, but I loved this movie.
Yeah.
All three are very good at ensembles and just telling these ridiculous, creating these ridiculous characters. Rian Johnson has gotten superb at just doing that.
Oh, absolutely. And I agree. I think the second one is the weakest. It has the mystery that I think is the silliest as well and strains credulity the most, at least for me. It did, and that's fine. It's like more about the characters, as we say. This one does have a silly mystery, but the mystery is such a backdrop to the characters that it doesn't matter, and you can really easily forget that. And that I think is really important. And yeah, I agree. I think it's the best of the three. And there's just so many great moments between Judd and Benoit Blanc together where you're really questioning what either one of them really means by what they're saying. Mm-hmm. And I loved all of those conversations. They have so many that are great.
You're going to hear Benoit Blanc say Scooby-Dooby-Doo, which is the greatest part of the entire movie.
It's the most ridiculous.
Who was it? Was it Janelle Monáe who was the lead in the second one?
And she was amazing. She was the best part for me.
Yes. Yeah,
well, I think that's what all of them have in common. It was Ana de Armas in the first one. Like all of them just have these incredible leads and just performances. Right. Like Rian Johnson is able to get incredible performances out of his entire cast. And
he does. Each one has that same structure where Benoit Blanc teams up with the like hapless main character who's usually the suspect as well. Mm-hmm. And then they go on this kind of wild like ping-ponging adventure together. And it's always really fun because each of those three actors has been exceptional.
Well, and he's also really good at creating characters that feel familiar and a little bit cliched, but also just like bring enough to the table, and the performances are so good that they still pop even despite just playing on these like very familiar archetypes, which I think is kind of the classic Agatha Christie lineage murder, is to have familiar archetypes but like a twist on them in some way or another.
He's unafraid to be political. I mean, these three, I say that's like a defining element of a Knives Out movie at this point, is that each one is kind of political. And the political themes, like the whatever cultural themes that he chooses to address, tend to make or break the movie. And some of the thing in the second one, it's like rich people and they suck. It's like it's not quite as strong as...
Well, not just rich people, rich technocrats specifically.
Yeah, which is like, okay, but I've seen that a lot, I guess, where like the idea of like faith and the church and like how it's being exploited versus how it actually helps people, like that's just such rich territory that it's cool to see him digging into that. In addition to like also like all of the visual and like aesthetic stuff that he can draw on from, spiritual films and horror movies and all of these different types of genres that use that iconography. So it's like a way richer pool that he was drawing from than the second film, which just feels a little like aesthetically and textually shallow to me.
Fair. But anyway, yeah, really enjoyed it. All right.
Let's make another Ryan Johnson Beanscast.
I know, right?
Let's talk about
there was a whole other Poker Face season that was amazing, and we didn't even talk about it.
Oh, man, I haven't watched that. It was amazing. I haven't watched it.
I mean, come on. It's Poker Face.
It's a lot of fun.
I mean, there's so many shows.
I know. I get it.
Yeah.
I also haven't watched Fallout Season 2. I always fall off after the first season of these shows and forget to watch the second one.
Well, and everyone kind of says maybe Fallout isn't as good now. Or
I haven't seen it, but I will say, Jason, the benefit of Poker Face is that every episode remains standalone, which I so respect that Ryan Johnson is just sticking with that. And it's even more standalone than season 1, where there was kind of an overarching plot that lasted the whole season, which I actually felt like was the weakest part to me. And I was like, just do Columbo. Like, we all know that's what you want to do. And he just leans into it in season 2. So you can actually just watch a couple episodes and just whenever you want, just be like, let's watch a Poker Face, and it'll be standalone.
Next time I feel like signing up for Peacock, I will.
Yeah.
My understanding of season 2, right, is that I've watched a few episodes, and there are definitely like strong episodes and weak episodes. So you could just go watch the like 3 real standouts or something if you just want to.
I mean, I kind of like them all, but I just like the way the show works. So
I will. You've convinced me. Anyway, that is it for this week's episode. We will be back next week, and once again, don't forget to check out our Pluribus Beans cast, spoiler cast, in the bonus feed already if you are a member. And if you're not a member, what are you waiting for?
Yeah, go become a member.
I don't know, you could be waiting for lots of things. It's okay. It's okay if you're not. but hey, we appreciate those of you who are.
Yeah. Oh, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yeah, check it out.
Check out the YouTube channel.
Check out the YouTube.
Yeah, super cool, especially if you like listening to shows. So are they going to be, Kirk? They're going to be like, as soon as they go live for everywhere, they'll be on the YouTube, right?
Yeah. It's just synced to our feed, so same as anyone.
So if people want to listen to it on YouTube, like on their computers, instead of doing Apple Podcasts or whatever, they could do that.
Yep. Cool. Or YouTube Music. Yeah, just like another way to listen.
That's awesome.
All righty. See you both next time.
All right. See you both next week.
Bye.
Triple Click is produced by Jason Schreier, Maddy Myers, and me, Kirk Hamilton. I edit and mix the show and also wrote our theme music. Our show art is by Tom DJ. Some of the games and products we talked about on this episode may have been sent to us for free for review consideration. You can find a link to our ethics policy in the show notes. Triple Click is a proud member of the Maximum Fun Podcast Network, and if you like our show, we hope you'll consider supporting us by becoming a member at MaximumFun.org/join. Email us at tripleclick@MaximumFun.org and find links to our merch store and our Discord server in the show notes. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
Maximum Fun, a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
Supported
directly
by you.